Explained by the Billy Meier Contacts. Mysteries, myths, legends, conspiracy theories, historical inaccuracies, and more, compiled by David Chance, revised July 2, 2025.
Future Earth Humans Part 10. See also Gilgamesh. See also Hyperborea, Hyperborean. See also Ecostone. See also Longskull. See also Men in Black. See also Nazca Line. See also Nocodemian. See also Partar. See also Quetzalcoatl. See also Rod. See also Starchild Skull. See also Teos Caves Metal Library. See also Tunguska Event 1908. See also UFOs Flying Saucers.
Contact Report 124.
I took everything from our recordings, which are continuously made by the monitoring apparatus, as you know, and concerning your person, everything in the vicinity of 20 kilometers from your center is recorded. The apparatus does not record lifeless data, but only living or self-moving. We have to do so because, despite everything, we are not sufficiently familiar with your earthly conditions, so that we could make such decisions alone and by ourselves. The fact that we grasp these things and concerns far too little and are not sufficiently familiar with these, this has proven itself to us throughout the entire time of the last years, since you and I took up contact. During the last days, we had to teach ourselves about the fact that we grasped the earthly concerns far too little, and that you, Billy, have truly always acted correctly. This also applies to all personnel of the human beings and, thus, to all group members, whom you, despite all our better analysis capabilities, were able to and are able to judge better and handle better than is possible for us. Surely, this late admission is not easy for us, but it must be done anyway, because it corresponds to the truth.
I, for my part, find that your analyses of persons are very much better than my own determinations.
Sure, in this respect, we can rely on our apparatuses utterly and completely. Next time, it will be an earlier coming back. For now, each month, in spite of our departure, we will always be about 3 weeks on Earth, where we inhabit our stations that we left and keep them in good condition. We continue to use them and hope that we can take them over again in full function at a later point in time. Up to that point in time, 2 to 3 years at the earliest. However, if this actually comes from the changes for the better in your group and in the individual group members, all our earthly stations remain free from a continuous occupation by us or by all those working together with us.
Does that mean that also the Bobbies and all others have abandoned the Earth stations?
Sure, but they have not abandoned these, but have only left them, like we did, and they have also arranged a shuttle service, by which means they can keep their stations in operation, but also in a highly limited form. Neither they nor we can abandon everything, because too much depends on it all. The main task, however, was, in every respect, our mission, and the majority fulfillment of this by you and your group. Since the group has failed, however, owing to the various members, we had to put this mission aside, at least for the time being, and with the hope that we can still fulfill this, nevertheless, if the individual group members finally become reasonable and insert themselves into everything, as is necessary.
And if not?
Then we must break off all relations, drop our mission definitively, and leave the earthly humanity without further pardon and without our well-intended guidance and instruction to its fate, which the earthly human being has set and chosen themselves.
That would mean that the Earth human would have to rely only on his or her very own evolution, without outside help.
Sure, and for this, each individual group member of the free community of interests, Phi Gu Sartre, bears the responsibility, in this case or another. And it is truly so that a few human beings of Earth bear the full responsibility for all of the upcoming events on this planet and for the entire spiritual development of the earthly human life form.
Contact Report 125.
Also, for quite some time, she, Billy's wife, has no longer endeavored truthfully and in honesty around the determinative concerns, which is why she has disappointed me very bitterly. Her in particular, I had locked very deeply into my friendly feelings, and now she of all has saddened and disappointed me very bitterly.
Contact Report 126.
Since our last visit, we have dealt extensively and thoroughly with all incidents and events that have taken place since the 7th of April, 1977. Like never before, this time, we endeavored ourselves around everything and analyzed everything, where we even assured ourselves the assistance of other human races who have studied the Earth and its inhabitants experimentally and analytically. Every FIGU group member, who is registered as such by our apparatus, is incorporated into a companion beam, which is of unlimited range and records all psychic processes and feelings, but really only these forms. Quetzal already installed this additional device in the month of January, 1979, and the reason for it was so that we can overlook and assess everything and everyone better, and can also inform you of certain occurrences, which are of importance for you to know, even if you always remain silent about them with your group members.
Contact Report 127.
Here, this is another letter from the core group. You are to read it and to tell me whether that which is contained in it is right and good.
Do you know the contents?
No, I have only brought the stuff for reading and have given it to you, because I promised that.
You also should not read the contents for the time being. Will you assure me this?
Of course, if you want.
You would not be in agreement with the contents, even though they are extremely correct and absolutely purposeful and relevantly right.
Then I had better read it yet.
You have already pledged your word to me.
Oh, damn it, I was probably a bit too hasty. Nice, laudable things must indeed be written there. You have properly pulled a fast one on me. Just wait, I will get you back for this. One day you will also run into my ladle again, you devil. Just wait.
This pleases me. This really pleases me. Finally, I also got you once.
You already speak like an earth twit, but nevertheless, your malicious pleasure certainly will not last long.
Ha 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 ha, but still, I am pleased. You have really fallen into my trap.
Contact Report 128.
Well, I would gladly like to know if you also write fairy tales at home for the children, as is so common on the earth.
Sure, but these fairy tales, in the sense of content and development, differ entirely from those that the human beings of Earth offer to their children. Moreover, they are also intended for the adults. Our fairy tales contain only very few unrealities, but rather very many more actual facts that should be instructive for all human beings. I also very happily read fairy tales and can then dream about them.
Contact Report 129.
You do not look very happy, girl.
I am just still always depressed by all the connections with regard to Vreni and her unfair business, about which I would not like to speak, however. I am very depressed about all these indelicate and improper happenings. Until now, I have never gotten into such a situation, where due to surges of emotion, I fell into rage and got tangled up inside myself.
I also make no reproach to you from that. And moreover, you prove to me through your bad situation in which you are now stuck that even you are actually just a completely normal human being.
Till we meet again, and very, very dear, thanks for letting me rid myself of my worries and oppressions and distresses with you.
Contact Report 130.
Sit down here.
What is that on the screen? I mean, the display screen.
That is the schematic of your feeling centers, which I have stored here. By this button here, I relieved you somewhat unexpectedly of your consciousness for 16 minutes. With the press of this button, I projected the stored feeling centers schematic into you, namely through this tiny triangle here, even before you sat down.
You mean that they're under the display screen?
Sure, the projecting in of the feeling centers schematic was carried out in a radiation-based and swinging wave-based manner. This means that the schematic penetrated into you through radiations in order to expand circularly in swinging waves in the feeling center in a sort of miniature explosion. This caused you such a bad and great pain in your chest that was pervaded by an icy cold, due to the sudden warmth owing to the refunctioning of the feeling centers in such a sudden form that you thereby lost consciousness. The process for this only lasted less than a second. During your consciousness-related absence, I used the swinging wave shock to put your entire emotional life, which is also stored with me here, and which you, in your terms, would probably call a psychogram, into your feeling centers by means of several trillion data impulses of swinging waves. Through this, your completely immobilized emotional life was newly activated and began to work again in the old manner.
Why did you no longer come for so long? I called you many times, but I did not receive a response.
We were all absent. We had to leave unexpectedly, and there was not enough time to inform you about it. We did not arrive back here until a few hours ago.
That is almost what I thought myself. Thus, you probably do not know what all has happened with us in the meantime.
No, and I would be grateful to you if you could later tell and explain everything to me.
Oh, it was not so much, and you can get the most important things much more quickly and in greater detail from the monitoring disc. I mean from the recording device.
I cannot do that, unfortunately, because during our departure, we failed to insert larger recording elements, which is why now only a single month is recorded.
And when was this element at the end of its power?
At the end of the month of March. Saint. Note: this contact occurred on 31st May 1980. We have our heavy burden with the Earth humans, because we still cannot understand them properly and cannot analyze them precisely. Despite our greatest efforts, we must now recognize ourselves that again and again, we make wrong analyses in reference to the evaluation of the human being of Earth or their concerns. This is simply because the human being of this world very often harbors and maintains something else in their mind than what is truly in their subconscious or in their will. The human being of Earth is extremely bewildering and inconsistent in these matters, which is why we will hold ourselves back from these things in the future.
So I would then be underway on a tramp voyage, so to speak, as I have done previously. Only then I was without my own vehicle, and therefore slept in strange vehicles or even in forests, meadows, in roadside ditches, cemeteries, on low roofs or under bridges, etc.
Something that we ourselves do not know at all in such forms.
Contact Report 131.
But how is it in this respect on the Pleiades? Do you still have large and open areas?
Sure, because firstly, we keep our population at the number of the natural state, and secondly, every inhabitant of our worlds is careful to ensure that kilometer-wide areas remain free of any buildings. We love the freedom and the vastness of the land, which is why everything is arranged in such a manner that a crowding never results. Thus, the large settlements, the cities, are limited to a minimum number, as is also the case with the villages. All the individual residential buildings, however, in which families live with no more than 5 persons, comprise a square of 100 by 100 meters outside the cities and villages.
You mean that 5 people at most, and so, therefore, a family, live in such a square parcel of land, and that also their house stands on this piece of land?
Sure, about 1/3 of our population lives in such a manner, while the other 2/3 of our population are concentrated in the few cities and villages. But they are fitted with very large wooded or low planted parklands, underground and above ground. Also, every small or large residential building, in which more or less families live, like with you in the multi-family dwellings, is equipped with a 100 by 100 meter large park garden, which is jointly used, however, by all inhabitants of the city dwelling or village dwelling concerned.
I find that fantastic. So thus, each high-rise building or apartment building has its own park?
Sure,
And how is the weather on Era? Do you have anything better thereof?
with us, there is no severe weather, and there are no natural disasters, such as are common in the current time on Earth.
But you explained to me once that you would not be involved there, America, because another group of your federation is working there, and because you want to have nothing more to do with America.
We only want to have nothing more to do with the American government and those involved in this. We managed to teach some peoples of worlds foreign to Earth within a few decades for the better, even though these were behind the overall evolution of the terrestrial human beings in their level of knowledge and in their doings and actions, as well as in their overall development by several millennia. 2 of these peoples have even overtaken the state of the overall evolution of the human beings of Earth in the meantime by several decades, even though at the time of our intervention they lived in the deepest spiritual darkness, which was also an evil product of our ancestors, about which I would not like to speak now, however.
Contact Report 134.
Oh, now I understand. He is an Aquarius born, and theoretically, you also have that character such that, depending on your sentence structure, you can express different things at the same time. So in this case, the wish also included that the wish fulfillment is impossible due to my superfluous explanation.
Certainly.
That is so, and we cannot help it that we think so complicatedly.
Think complicatedly? I would rather say that it is very rational and logical thinking. It's just that the non-Aquarius born often have trouble correctly understanding you and the sense of your words.
Do you want to say with this that this also gives you difficulties?
Certainly, there are also still misunderstandings with us, as is the case with the Earth humans.
H. The order of the garden will occur in the future according to Quetzal's precise information, as well as the garden's production. Quetzal's exercises, in addition to his technical, medical, and various craft occupations, also includes being a cultural creator and cultural examiner, so he is very well versed in these matters. One of Quetzal's friends, Isoban, has dealt thoroughly with earthly civil engineering and is highly trained in it. Oh, for the gardening operation that is to begin, I almost forgot to mention, Quetzal wants to leave you some seed potatoes from one of our potato varieties. Note, please see the full contact report for the context of this entry.
Provided that the persons involved always agree and that the words addressed to us are serious, as we understand them to be, and also that they do not deceive us, because we are not fully able to create precise clarifications relating to this, because our directives do not allow us to penetrate into the internal thoughts, etc. of the people. Thus, we can only fathom the superficial matters, but we cannot recognize lies and deception. So we do not know if everything is sincere.
I must admit to you, my daughter and you understand a great deal regarding the psychological treatment of people. Already, the specific psychological actions have already come about from your conspiracy idea. See Contact Report 123 S123 2174, which is a peculiarity of your thinking. Such behaviors are not given to us, which is why I am very surprised that my daughter has also come to this idea and implemented this with you.
You should not be surprised about this, Father, because I had an excellent teacher in our dear friend. He has shown me in past years, in purely private conversations again and again, the behavior patterns of the Earth humans, and has taught me how they should be treated. And because one of my fields is psychology, I got used to working during all of those years in a psychological form, which I learned from Billy. It is an honor for me, together with our friend, to be called a sly dog.
But now, quit your joking.
Contact Report 135.
Monera waits for me a few hundred meters away with a herd of cows. We also have our ship in the vicinity there.
Oh, I see. Then you are probably the reason why the cattle are so restless up there on the southeastern slope of the forest.
That may very well be, because Manara is with the cows, which she is fond of, and with which she is gladly occupied.
Your silvery rain cloak is not very good either, despite this rainy darkness. Quetzal, did you not pull off your silvery shining cloak? And can anything happen to you from the swinging waves of the Earthlings at this distance? According to my knowledge, you can come within 90 or 100 meters of the Earth humans without protective equipment and not expose yourselves to any type of swinging wave danger.
The last part of your assessment is correct.
Contact Report 136.
Already in the beginning time, when the papacy and the Vatican were founded and brought to life in Rome, the most negative place existing in Italy was unconsciously selected for the residence of the Pope, the city of Rome, where the Vatican resided, from which, for almost 2,000 years, murder, enslavement, exploitation, deception, and every possible crime spread across the earthly world, and even other worlds in the universe, and in distant, foreign galaxies did not remain spared from these vile, murderous, religious, and deadly deeds, because innocent extraterrestrial visitors on Earth were confronted with the madness of the religious cult of the Vatican, and, therefore, Catholicism, and succumbed to this delusional faith, and after their return to their homeworlds, their people living there were also infected by the acquired delusional faith until religious wars broke out, and that is why entire planets and even enormous solar systems have been destroyed. Toward the latter part of 1983 or spring of 1984, we are planning to introduce an effective peace meditation to benefit Earth, its inhabitants, and events that will occur there. Included in this effort will be everyone on ERA and many members from our Federation, who total will comprise more than 3.5 billion, 350 million humans.
Contact Report 137.
If we had put one of our androids in your position, then he would have destroyed himself if all of this illogicalness had arisen.
You have strange jokes in stock.
No, because my words correspond to the truth. We actually expected too much from you. A test has proven this. Quetzal came up with the idea. He wanted to know to what extent a half-organic apparatus could bear the illogicalness that has crept into the group. Quetzal programmed an android with all records of negating and negative forms of all group members. The results were awful. These stored illogical modes of acting and thinking led to the fact that the android became crazy in all of its actions and speeches. Our androids are programmed based on absolute logic in thinking and acting, and these abilities surpass even our own respective abilities and potential. Now, during the transfer of data, Quetzal also paid close attention to the fact that your own data of your work and all your efforts toward the instruction of the group members and all their interests became programmed into the second android. Thus, the exact situation arose in the two androids, which included everything that happened between you and the group members since the beginning. On the one hand, the overall view of the group members was placed into the first android, and on the other hand, your data was placed into the second android. Expecting something terrible to happen, Quetzal placed both androids in an old beam ship in the vicinity of the planet Pluto, where he then activated them, and they began to live. Then, on our view screens, we could watch the terrible sight. Already after a few minutes, the android programmed with your data began to become visibly ill, while our recording devices registered an action of complete helplessness. Soon, completely apathetically, it wanted to destroy itself, but then suddenly, in the very next moment, it senselessly and angrily raised its voice. Meanwhile, the second android spoke absolutely crazy words without thinking and manipulated all of the ship's apparatuses without sense or purpose. Despite the visible internal difficulty of the android programmed with your data, it tried again and again to bring the other android, stored with the illogical data, to its senses, which it apparently managed to do quite often. But truthfully, this was only apparent, for as our recording devices clearly determined, the attempts of reconciliation and reason only worked so far that the logic of the words of the android representing you released reassuring impulses, while the second android did not at all have in mind to make the logical explanations its own. The investigations of the registry devices unambiguously proved that the negatively programmed android had developed a blatant form of self-addiction, egoism, and individualism, as well as a lust for power and, despite the superficial acknowledgement of the logical explanations offered to it, etc., was unwilling to actually adopt them. Truthfully, as the recording devices unambiguously showed, it only wanted its own will to count and to enforce it, which finally went so far that your android rapidly deteriorated and suddenly became crazy. As we could see from our devices, his artificial organic brain mass slowly began to cook and to steam. Then there was an explosion, and his head was torn up beyond all recognition. Meanwhile, the other android, who only cared about this briefly, continued to act completely illogically and, moreover, spoke very confused and crazy things. Then the moment came when he wildly and senselessly hit the ship's equipment and created an inferno. When he accidentally touched the automatic self-destruct mechanism of the ship, and it was destroyed in an immense explosion. For us, it was proof that we had expected inhuman traits from you. What an android cannot take, a human life form cannot take either. Only through Quetzal's test could we grasp the full scope of what had caved in on you over all the years.
Contact Report 140.
In the next few hours, Quetzal will set a programmed pulse emitter to function on you, which will immediately inform me if you should call me, no matter where I ever am. For we, although in ignorance of many things, have also failed, so we must charge ourselves with guilty actions. Note: please see the full contact report for the context of this entry. Millions of humans on Era, on the other hand, would be very happy if they could at least greet you on the viewing screens, by whose communication possibilities they could convey their greetings and wishes to you directly. You are well known to all of them. They know your face and your wonderful stories, which we allowed to be spread on our world. Therefore, and I love you very much, which you should know, I will therefore explain to Quetzal that he should not set his pulse emitter to function for anything but your health. Come this with love. It will remind you of me when you can think more clearly again, and then call me.
Contact Report 141.
We never had the intention, and we never gave such praise to you, to portray you as a superhuman, etc. All such activity is also far from our way of thinking, and our ethics, and also from our overall knowledge of the harmfulness of praise speaking.
Here, these are 2 photos that I have received from Wendell Stevens. As you can see, it concerns 2 model heads. Can you tell me whether any human life forms are known to you that look like these pictured heads?
Are you of the assumption that these head replicas have true backgrounds?
Well then, here, I consider this green head absolute nonsense. Note: the pictured model head relates to the book UFO Contact from Planet Yarga. During the Great Journey, see Contact Report 31, I had the opportunity to see your recordings of human life forms, which you kindly demonstrated to me with your viewing devices. But I cannot remember a single human life form that looked like this or substantially similar. Moreover, there were, as you explained at that time, about 30 million different races, which you let me see visually.
With that, you are quite right. No human life form exists in the universal space within reach of us that bears even a slight resemblance to this imaginary product pictured here. For about 40 days, there has been another station on Earth, created by human life forms similar to us, of extraterrestrial intelligences from the planet Hastur in the Geron system of the Genome Galaxy. This galaxy is located 483 million light-years away from the Earth, and 413 different human races live on the habitable planets there throughout the entire galaxy, which is, relatively seen, very little for an entire galaxy. Just a few years ago, we entered into connection with the highly sophisticated inhabitants of the planet Hastur, who have progressed so far in their overall development as it will be for the Earth humans in approximately 1,120 years. With ethically and very highly distinct lifestyles, the inhabitants of Hastur are very peaceful and loving, and besides this, they live in the same time level as the Sol system, thus in the present level, as this would be said or called by you. Because the Hastur inhabitants are now interested in life forms in the remote vastness of the universe, which is still inaccessible to them but cannot yet reach these areas with their technology. We have extended our connections with them in such a way that we brought an expeditionary command of the Hastur inhabitants here in the Great Spacer. We also helped them build their station, which was created in the depths of the North Sea, and from where they will expand their expeditionary work across the whole world. Since their mental, physical, and consciousness-related development has not yet progressed as far as ours, we can only maintain physical contact with them using our swinging wave-neutralizing devices, as we must also do so with the Earth humans when it is necessary now and then. However, this now means that the Hastur inhabitants can freely move among the Earth humans because their swinging waves turn out to be bearable with those of the Earth humans, but only briefly. The Haster inhabitants cannot remain in the direct range of the swinging waves of the Earth humans for more than 17 hours. Otherwise, they begin to lose control of themselves. But since they have this 17-hour possibility, they have decided that they will seek contact with one or several Earth humans for their study purposes and also for the instruction of the Earth humans, but certainly with no more than 3 people, who must remain silent about it for their lifetimes, which is why especially upright people are to be selected for these contacts, who can be completely trusted.
Contact Report 142.
The few human races in the area of the Cassiopeia constellation in another space-time configuration are well known to us, but they have no resemblance to the life forms mentioned in this letter. Also, their flying apparatus do not correspond in any manner to the kind described here. And besides, their technology is not so far and highly developed that they could, with their own flying apparatuses, reach the Earth. The technology of one of the 2 races is presently developed so far that they prepared just the first flight attempts to outer space, and they stand just a little bit behind Earth's technological development. The second race, which is on another planet behind the Cassiopeia constellation, only has flying apparatuses that master their own planetary space somewhat certainly. Among these facts is the further complication that both of these races of human life forms exist in a different time plane in relation to the Earth. Like I said, so separated from the time plane that is known to the Earth human being and in which they live. So when the human beings of the Cassiopeia constellation one day master space travel, they still will not be able, for a long time, to penetrate into the time plane in which the Earth humans live their existence.
And in our time plane known to us, no human life forms exist. Who would be capable of spaceflight in Cassiopeia? That is to say, in that area.
Sure, there are human beings there, but these are not yet advanced in spaceflight, or are not yet so far advanced that they could carry out journeys through universal space. Like on the Earth, secret stations of foreign planet human races exist there on their planet, which do not, however, practice direct contact with the planet's inhabitants.
How many of all solar systems have planets that are actually inhabited by humans, which are visible from the Earth, and which are known to us? If one believed all alleged contact reports of Earth humans with extraterrestrials, practically all solar systems would be inhabited.
Truly, there are only very few solar systems inhabited by human life forms that are known to the Earth humans, and on the other hand, a lot of suns have no planetary systems. To these facts, there is still to add that many of the space-traveling races that come to the Earth are not resident in the time plane known to the Earth humans.
We already spoke very often about space-traveling human races that do not belong to you and which come nevertheless to the Earth. In which time plane do they all belong?
It is different for each. To mention all of them would be difficult and time-consuming.
Then let's say, for example, the humans of the area of Alpha Centauri, then Reticuli, or whatever it is, then
The first ones live a tiny fraction of a second, shifted from the Earth time plane, so therefore they cannot be reached by Earth inhabitants before they master time travel. The second human race you mentioned also does not live in the same time plane as the Earth humans. It is nice to be in your workroom once again, and this time I brought my protective device.
that was also wise, when I think of the accident at that time.
Contact Report 144.
These conflicts within him H. Possibly Hans Schutzbach finally led him to the case, because through his steady insistence of getting in touch with me, I allowed myself to be led to approach him in my ship so close that he came into my personal swinging wave field. Thus, he suddenly became aware of the true love and peace, which seemed like a paradise to him. But disaster immediately fell upon him when I went away again, and he fell out of my swinging wave field. It seemed like the end of the world to him, which made him deal with suicidal intentions, from which I was able to prevent him only with great difficulty. For this reason, I tried to influence him to the better through my own swinging waves, but this was clearly wrong because he only responded to any attempt to help him on my part by starting to pity himself more and more. And at last, a dangerous hatred built up inside of him against everything that has to do with calm, peace, and love, as well as with truth.
Contact Report 146.
The coming world events and the continual fulfillment of the prophecies ever depress me to such an extent that I often become damn furious when I think about the fact that the Earth humans simply cannot be taught and run unreasonably in their misery. I often heave because of a burning rage and a roaring misery. Is there not a possibility to suppress these outbursts? I myself find no possibility for this.
That does not just happen with you, but also with us. Like us, you are too connected with everything, and you love the Earth humans too much to be able to be indifferent to what is coming. We all know that you have to bear an almost inhuman burden through your knowledge and through some very cruel knowledge of the future. But unfortunately, in fulfilling your mission, neither you nor we can remain spared from this. Like us, you also have to live with the knowledge that the prophecies will fulfill themselves and that they are nearly unchangeable, for only very few human beings can be instructed by the truth.
Why so solemn, my son?
I feel your pain.
Contact Report 148.
This is also the reason why our own keeping of animals on Era is uniformly handled in such a manner that dogs and cats may only live in the wild or in special and very large enclosures, to which the human beings have no direct access. Already very early on, our scientists of the past recognized what pathogens these animals carry on themselves, which are dangerous for human beings, which is why they arranged appropriate measures for their keeping.
Contact Report 150.
Not only did we have to remove all of our available forces from the Earth, but also from many other worlds, including Era. We need all available forces because the population of a whole system, which includes 16 inhabited planets and 3 suns, has prepared itself for a space traversal in warlike form because their system is doomed. The targets of these still war-accustomed humans are the habitable planets of the most diverse constellations, whereby also the SOL system is included, and thus the Earth. These rather inhumane human life forms are willing to kill the inhabitants of the planets they have chosen in order to gain their own living space. On the one hand, our forces now prevent these life forms from realizing their plans by breaking out into space. But on the other hand, further of our forces systematically resettle the populations of the various endangered planets in uninhabited but easily habitable areas, while another part of our forces looks for new habitable and suitable planets on which the rest of these human beings can be settled and relocated.
Incredible, but cannot the Lyrians and vegans also help you with that?
We have also included many forces of theirs for this task. Another part of them will take over on the Earth at the end of this month, as I explained to you earlier.
I know you spoke of the fact that Manara's father, brother, and sister will come here, along with 35 others.
That is of correctness, but these 38 human beings only represent the first wave that will take over our own station and our tasks. Ours and both of those two other stations, America and Asia, will be fully staffed with our allies.
So with vegans and Lyrians, and are they all differently colored?
You say that they are chocolate brown.
Is there really no way to use nuclear energy without causing great danger to human beings, animals, plants, etc.?
This possibility exists, and we are also using it. The destroyer was partially interfered with in its natural orbit by very early ancestors of ours, vindictively, causing damage to the SOL system that is not of natural cosmic origin.
But you did not say anything about that in all your explanations. Simya, Say did not talk about it either.
We do not know the exact circumstances of that time, which is why we cannot give any further details or explanations about that.
Contact Report 151 A note. Please see the full contact report for the context of this entry.
But then, I have a question. How do you handle such cases on Era?
We know of no such problems because every human being on our world abides by the unwritten laws and recommendations.
And how do they look, or in other words, what do they state when two humans are good for each other, as they say?
They state that two humans who come together and suppose that they can develop deeper feelings for each other have to determine during the time of 3 years whether these feelings are actually existent or not. After this time, they are examined by authoritative experts of the matter, after which then, in the case of a mutual, logical consistency of feelings, love, etc., the two can be joined together in marriage. The period of 3 years is divided in such a manner that every 7 days the two see each other once for several hours, depending on time availability, personally and alone, and spend this time at their sole discretion, but it is absolutely excluded that they spend this time sleeping together or even having sexual relations. Such activity is only acceptable when the examination gives the assurance that they will seal the bond of marriage. If two such people perform an activity that always or occasionally brings them together during the weekly 7 days, then nothing is to be objected against it, but at the same time, a personal togetherness is not allowed. The reason for this lies therein that each of the two should always have time during 6 days to thoroughly process and consider all of the undergone insights and experiences on the 7th day. Then, in addition to this, after 2 years, there comes a 12-month separation period, during which the two may not see each other. Typically, they work on different planets during this time, in order to maintain sufficient distance and to have time to think. Then, only after this, there follows the aforementioned examination. Other harmless physical contacts, as well as communicative forms, are, of course, allowed at any time.
Contact Report 153.
Our linguistic computers speak very fluently and even correctly emphasize when they are stored and programmed with human voices.
The group members should be given the opportunity to be able to direct all personal questions and other questions of interest to them to a special computer, which will then answer their questions for them using the best of logic. For this purpose, a special and soundproof room must be provided, in which only the individual group member, undisturbed and isolated from listeners, can direct his or her questions to the computer located inside there, which is coupled with a repository of knowledge that also holds all personal data of all group members of the past and future within it. Then, this computer responds with my voice, while giving the exact answers on a logical basis. Is this right?
The computer will not be in this room because it is a device designed by me, which is to be installed in the telemeter disc located high above the center. In the aforementioned room, there will only be earthly apparatuses and equipment, which will transmit the voices of the group members to the computer, and which, in turn, will also let the voice of the computer in space become audible. This apparatus may not be positioned in the room because it is not an earthly device. It is also necessary that this apparatus hovers very high above the Earth because it will not have certain data stored in it, which must then be retrieved from the central computer in the station.
Aha, now I understand. Now, it interests me only whether a meditative process will be necessary for a question.
No, because the question has to occur acoustically and through a microphone. But for this, it is also necessary that the psyche is very balanced. Otherwise, the computer will not release an answer to the questions directed to it. Thus, this necessary balance must be present in the human beings so that questions are accepted and answered.
And how do the females among you hold up now with the creation of the balance, if you even have such question and answer computers at all?
Those actually are there with us, and they are used very often. Our people are all balanced to such an extent that no one must first create the balance. But still, many females use the aforementioned method of application because it not only increases mental balance, but still has many other advantages.
Contact Report 154.
Of course, that is of correctness. I have overlooked that. I'm a little confused. Of course, that is of correctness.
You are illogical. Think of Gabriel. Note, see Emmanuel.
That you know my earlier personal origin?
But of course, and also no one had to tell me this. I have known this since that time, when I first saw you. I had no reason to talk about it, you former half-earthling.
Contact Report 155.
And you do not think that it is necessary, for you and for everyone, that for all those involved, you yourselves clarify the things and obtain the information.
You know that we are not allowed to do that because it would be an intrusion into the personality. We cannot verify the data because we are not entitled to do that.
Sim Yase once told me that I may not take a photo of her because she moves every now and then on the earth among the human beings and may not be recognized. But that can't be the whole reason because this explanation seems somewhat flimsy to me.
Yes, there is another reason, and it is based on the fact that a lot of damage and harm can be caused by photos if human beings with evil thoughts concentrate negatively upon others and upon photographically depicted human beings. Negatively oriented Earth humans could affect us so heavily and viciously and inflict a lot of harm and evil upon us if they could steal photographic images of us. This is the second and most important reason why we may not let ourselves be photographically depicted. With Asket and Nara, we could allow it only because both of them live in the DAL universe and cannot be affected from the Earth in their lives in the aforementioned way, because no forces of any kind can penetrate through the barriers of the universe. Graphical representations, however, are harmless.
Contact Report 156.
That you visit me here in the lounge, however, I find that a bit dangerous.
I have my protective device with me, as you see.
Of course, but if someone comes in here,
Then I am away in a split second. With my daily 16 working hours, I am doing several times his daily activities.
Greet Simya, Se, Ptah, Manara, and all others, including the new black roses, those from Vega system who are black-skinned.